Yeah. Yep.
Thank you for the great talk. Hi, my name is Ataya from Indonesia. Thank you so much for the lecture. I'm actually interested in the prostate cancer is a dynamic disease, right? I mean, given the temporal dynamics of the prostate cancer itself, how well do genetic testing strategies are capturing the evolving dynamics of the disease? I mean, the genetic landscape of the prostate cancer, of the disease over time. I mean, when we are doing the genetic testing, we are doing only for that time as well. However, the prostate cancer is a dynamic disease, can be metastatic, maybe can be castrate-resistant prostate cancer at that time after the genetic testing. So what implication does this have for the treatment decision-making monitoring? Thank you.
That's a very good question. So I think you're referring specifically to somatic testing, because obviously germline is hereditary, so it doesn't really matter. But you're absolutely right in that it's not just only for prostate cancer. In tumors in general, the big question is when to test. And in general, if you look at the guidelines recommend we test when they are becoming CRPC. However, the caveat is that, of course, bringing into play all the different logistics, and as well as the fact that many of these HRR mutations, and obviously the most important ones, BRCA and ATM, they tend to be truncal mutations. So they tend to occur very early on in tumorigenesis, right? So you know, usually what I try and do is I try to initiate somatic testing pretty early on in their disease course. You know, certainly, perhaps not when they're still early stage, but certainly when they turn metastatic, I will often initiate somatic testing already, for various reasons. Firstly, you have to balance it against, you know, the potential wait time, you know, when the patient turns CRPC. So Robert has already covered a little bit as to the issue of tissue integrity, for example, and the problems with biopsy down the road. So you would understand that prostate cancer, a lot of times the predominant metastatic sites are bones, and bones are really not very ideal for in general for somatic testing. The false negative rates and the tissue integrity can be severely affected many times, the longer that you live as well. So many times, you know, when the prostate cancer, early on in the course of their treatment for HSPC, I would have already initiated some form of somatic testing, just because of considerations of tissue integrity, further biopsies, as well as the potential turnaround times for testing. We are getting better, of course. Turnaround times nowadays are really fast. Typically, when I send my samples to Lucent, it comes back within 2 to 3 weeks. So it's not such a big issue. But the tissue integrity part is actually a very, 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 very important consideration. And considering that many of these HRR genes are truncal mutations anyway, and they occur very early on in carcinogenesis, I don't think it's wrong actually to initiate the testing early on. And in my practice, I usually initiate kind of roundabout when they are being treated for metastatic HSPC before they actually show evidence of turning to CRPC. So maybe Robert, you can share.
Yeah, no, I think I would probably just echo that. Yeah, these HRR alterations are going to be generally truncal. So if you test on archival tissue, if you test early, that's quite sufficient. Yeah, I think it's quite reasonable. Yeah, that's what I would agree with. I think a lot of the guidelines put CRPC in purely because, you know, that's the current indication for PARP inhibitor therapy. But, you know, as we see PARP come earlier on, you know, as we see it come into the HSPC space, we're going to have to be testing earlier anyway. And if we do that, as Wei Chong said, you're going to be testing on a fresh sample of tissue, the chance of getting a successful test is higher. So, yeah.
Okay, I think in the interest of time, we'll have to close the session. And maybe just take the chance to give a token of appreciation to Wei Chong and Robert. In next, okay, Jack. Next. Okay. So next, we will shift gear to look at focal therapy, and it's really my pleasure to invite Clinical Assistant Professor Tay K. Jack. He is the Senior Consultant at the Department of Urology, Singapore General Hospital, and also helming the Director of Uro-Oncology Services. He completed his 2 years Uro-Oncology Fellowship at Duke University under Society of Uro-Oncology. He's a dear mentor of mine, and amongst many things that he taught me, he guided me through my focal therapy journey. So let us invite Dr. Tay, please.
Use the